Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamanatira Vanachari Jamanatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari. Pretty easy, huh? Real easy. Just 4 lines, 8 names, but a nice song. We've been spending time in the evening discussion describing Krishna's going from Gokula to Vrindavan. So Krishna was born in Mathura, prison house of Kamsa, right? Okay. Then at midnight, that's when he was born, and there was exchange with his mother and father. He was born in a four-armed Vishnu form, Vasudeva Kṛṣṇa form, and at his mother's request, he assumed a childlike form, and he was taken that very night to Gokula, which is on the other side of the river Jamuna. He was left by the side of Yashoda, and the female child born of her was taken back to Mathura. And Kṛṣṇa spent 3 years, 4 months in Gokula as the son of Nanda and Jasoda. We covered those activities in the sections of the Bhagavatam. Then at 3 years, 4 months, Kṛṣṇa desired to go to Vrindavan, leave Gokul, 3-year, 4-month-old little boy, but he's the supreme controller, so he's not just a little boy. He had that desire. He didn't express it, but because he's in the heart of every living entity, the elders of the cowherd community thought it best to go to another place. There were 3 main reasons. 1, too many dangers. Putana, Shakatasura, Trinavarta, falling trees. Better to find another place. It's dangerous for our children. Second reason, for the cows. Because cows, after some time, they trample the grass and they eat the foliage, and it wasn't as good as when they first went there. So they wanted to go to a place that was better for the cows. And a third reason or consideration was, of course, they're depending upon God's protection. They were devotees of Lord Narayana, and they didn't understand Kṛṣṇa was Narayana. They understand Krishna's Nanda's son. But there's no wild animals, and it's protected by the king, Vrindavan. So Vrindavan is one of the 12 forests, and they went to Vrindavan. And we heard about one of the last verses we heard is when Kṛṣṇa and Balaram first reached Vrindavan, they saw Govardhan, they saw the river Jamuna, and they saw Vrindavan Dham, and they were very happy, transcendently happy. So now we're going to read this evening a summary description of Vrindavan found in Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu. It's they're coming to Vrindavan. It's describing that scene with references from texts from the Vedas, from Vishnu Purana and Bhagavatam and so forth. So here's Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu, Chapter 1, Description of Goloka. There exists an auspicious place called Vrindavan, full of prosperity, the glorious forest of the earth deity. This forest is for the protection of all people. The slightest touch of Vrindavan surpasses the wind in its quickness and power to purify. Though the place is unfettered in bestowing artha, dharma, and kama, it always bestows liberation. So the reference, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, is well-known purushartha, the benefits bestowed upon people who follow dharma is those things. So Vrindavan automatically bestows those things and always bestows liberation. Though a trace of Vrindavan produces liberation. Vrindavan itself remains indifferent to liberation because of eagerness to bind a person to the qualities of Vrindavan. Though Vrindavan gives bhakti to the devotees, it never destroys bhakti. Lord Brahma had a desire to be born in Vrindavan, thinking himself deprived of good fortune. That's described in chapter 14 of Canto 10, Brahma's prayers to Kṛṣṇa after the stealing of the calves and cowherd boys. He then decided to perform worship. He began to realize the greatness of Vrindavan, which was worthy of worship and beneficial to him. Though the actions of the abode are most inconceivable, in the end, all contrary meanings are resolved in the manner of Virodha Alankara. Alankara is a literary term. It means embellishments, literary embellishments, to make something that's written very attractive. So he goes on, though poets cannot write poetically about Vrindavan, it still becomes possible for them to write poetic descriptions of it. Note, that's a contradiction. You cannot, and then they do it. That is to say, it's so elevated and exalted and unique and special, you can't compare anything to it, because one of the literary ornaments or alankaras in writing is metaphor and simile. That is, something is described in poetic language, it's like this, and it's like that, and it's like that, and to give you some indication how wonderful it is. So it's so wonderful you can't even use those comparisons, and somehow poets do it anyways, and we'll hear some of them as we go along. In Vrindavan, the essence of supreme generosity resides. There is an eternal perfection of the festival of bliss for the son of Nanda, who gives bliss to all people and appears in this world repeatedly to give the world benefit. Shukadeva Goswami has written concerning that astonishing bliss, and that's our verse for this evening. Canto 10, Chapter 11, Text 36. Shukadeva Goswami writes, "Oh, King Parikshit," or he says, "when Rama and Krishna saw Vrindavan, Govardhan, and the banks of the river Jamuna, they both enjoyed great pleasure." In Vrindavan, first, Govardhan is praised. Gokula is the abode of Kṛṣṇa, who is known in the Purana as the Lord of Gokula. It is called Gokula because the cows live there. Govardhana is the shelter of all beings in Gokula. The particular qualities of Govardhan are as follows. It is generally known that Manasa Ganga and Govardhan are different, but I consider that the streams of affection coming from Kṛṣṇa in the form of Manasa Ganga have entered within Govardhan. So when you visit Vrindavan, one of the places for sure that you must visit and will visit is Govardhan. Govardhan is a very long, narrow mountain, and in the middle of that long, narrow mountain is Manasa Ganga. And during Krishna's time, Govardhan was larger and Manasa Ganga was larger, but it's non-different than the Ganga. There's some nice story. Maybe I'll tell the nice story. One day, Krishna saw Mother Jasoda preparing some food items, packing them away. And he asked Mother Yasoda, "What is this for?" And she smiled and said, "Your father, Nanda Maharaj, he's going to make a pilgrimage to Ganga because he wants to seek purification for the benefit of you and the whole family. Plans to go to the Ganga." And Kṛṣṇa said, he doesn't need to go to the Ganga. The Ganga is right here in Vrindavan. And she smiled, said, "Ganga is far distant from here." And Kṛṣṇa insisted, no, the Ganga is right here. So he took her by the hand and took her to a place where this pond that was there, Manasa Ganga, which he created by his mind, he called the Ganga, and Ganga Devi came directly before Mother Yasoda, who grasped her head and said, I think Nanda Maharaj doesn't have to go anywhere. Manasa Ganga is right here. So it's non-different. And while it's in the middle portion of the long Govardhan mountain, they're considered the same. That's what's being said here by Jiva Goswami. I consider that the streams of affection coming from Kṛṣṇa in the form of Manasa Ganga have entered within Govardhan. Then the first person speaking, this is Madhukanta. Madhukanta and his brother Snigdhakanta, they're disciples of Narada, and they were trained by Narada and blessed by Narada that they would understand the past, present, and future, and so on. And then with all of this, they're narrating to Nanda Maharaj and others in Braja about the glories of Kṛṣṇa and Vrindavan, Gopal Champu. That's what the structure of it is. So it's the first person speaking is Madhukanta. I consider that the two glorious kundas, that's Radhakund, Shyamakund, because of their joining at Govardhan and because of their fragrance, are, on the pretext of being kundas, actually the prema of Radha and Kṛṣṇa. For one can see that the kundas tremble in the breeze, become stunned, remain liquid with bhakti, and their waters take the form of thick rasa. Vrindavan becomes excellent with the Yamuna river. Not only does bathing in her waters reveal Kṛṣṇa, but also seeing her reveals Kṛṣṇa, since she carries the weight of the sweet, dark form of Kṛṣṇa. Poets use metaphors to describe Yamuna. Has the perspiration poured from Kṛṣṇa's body to form the Yamuna because of his great love for all of his affectionate devotees? Or has the devotee's great love for Kṛṣṇa, by continuous meditation, turned the Yamuna black? That's poetic expression. The bank of the Yamuna produces increase of great prema. Quoting, the banks of the Yamuna manifesting the rasa of the rasa lila performed by Kṛṣṇa protect the devatas. Has Yamuna produced banks using a delightful magical powder which creates attraction for Kṛṣṇa? Next, the Mandira tree agitates our minds. So going back some verses ago, we heard this very detailed description of what's in Vrindavan. So Govardhan And it's mentioned specifically this Bandira tree. Bandira Vana is there's a forest, and within that forest there's a very, very, very tall Bandira tree. So someone asked this question, Bandira disappeared after. Listen, you can tell her. How can one describe the Bandira tree's prema for Kṛṣṇa? When Kṛṣṇa disappeared, the tree thought, let Govardhan and other dear objects remain visible, but I cannot remain visible in this universe. Then the tree also disappeared. See the deep prema in Vrindavan. Quote, Vrindavan sometimes becomes stunned in the form of mountains and sometimes trembles in the form of leaves quivering in the trees. Sometimes Vrindavan's hairs stand on end in the form of sprouting buds. When Kṛṣṇa, the son of the king of Vraja, appears surrounded by the inhabitants of Vraja, do not some objects also appear, desiring to indicate his appearance? I perceive that this is correct, for the land of Vraja produces all the suitable objects for his pastimes. There is a verse from the Bhagavatam, which Madhukanta quotes, chapter 5. O Maharaj Parikshit, the home of Nanda Maharaj is eternally the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his transcendental qualities, and is therefore always naturally endowed with the opulence of all wealth. Yet, beginning from Lord Kṛṣṇa's appearance there, it became the place for the pastimes of the goddess of fortune. According to the Padma Purana, as quoted in the Sandarbhas, now this is Jiva Goswami writing, and we'll go back to the text, but he wrote 400,000 verses in Sanskrit, which is Mahabharata, Bhagavatam. I mean, it's voluminous. One of those was a commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam called the Sandarbhas. Sandarbhas indicates a particular literary form, and it has 6 parts and describes the topics of Kṛṣṇa, subject by subject. The topics of the Bhagavatam, subject by subject, in very organized fashion. So he's referring to that. That's mentioned. This verse from the Padma Purana, as quoted in the Sandarbhas, says, the appearance of all the objects of Vraja take place in every kalpa. Every kalpa is a day of Brahma. 1,000 yuga cycles, once out of the 1,000 yuga cycles, Kṛṣṇa appears in Vraja, and all the paraphernalia also appears, from an unmanifest to a manifest state. It will be shown that Kṛṣṇa entered that pleasing Vraja after killing Dantavakra, which caused full bliss. So when Jai and Vijay were cursed, they took 3 births, and Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and Shishupal and Dantavakra. So when Kṛṣṇa killed Dantavakra, he then entered Vraja. Jiva Goswami is saying it's detailed later in this book, but so Madhukanta is saying, I'll explain it later. Since Vraja is free of the touch of the bodies and minds of materialists, since it is filled with Kadamba trees profusely glorified in the Viraha Purana, and since it is the abode of pastimes of eternal blissful Balaram cows and cowherds, described profusely in the Padma Purana and Skanda Purana, and since Vrindavan has special powers beyond the material realm, Braja is unlimited. In Kṛṣṇa's own words from the Gautamiya Tantra, there is a brief description of Vrindavan. Quote, "O Master of the people, I desire to hear about the 12 forests of Vrindavan. If I am qualified, please tell me." Kṛṣṇa then spoke, "This pleasant Vrindavan is my own abode. There, all cows, animals, birds, insects, and humans are without death. Those who live under my mercy come to my abode undying." Sounds like a contradiction. They don't die, but when they die. But it means, it's same as a verse in Canto 2, Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who live their lives in devotion to Kṛṣṇa, or to transcendence, with each passing of the rising and setting of the sun, which takes away the lives of worldly people, they're that much closer to eternity for those who are absorbed in transcendence or worship of the Supreme Lord. So you go back to Godhead if you die in Vrindavan. We heard that yesterday also. Vishnu Purana says, "The daughters of the cowherd men live in my abode. Completely giving up all connections, they serve me continually. This place, measuring 5 yojanas, is none different from my body." It gives dimensions of Vrindavan in different ways. A yojana, 1 yojana is 8 miles. Yojana is a measure of Sanskrit distance. So although there's a material measurement, it's an unlimited abode. The Yamuna, flowing with the sweetest nectar, is the Shushumna, or central nerve, of that body. We discussed this term Shushumna already. All the devas and the elements exist there in a spiritual form. I, the embodiment of all devas, do not leave that forest for a moment, though I appear and disappear in this world age after age. This is Kṛṣṇa speaking. But this radiant forest full of pleasure is invisible to the material eye. So the uppercut form is eternally existing in every kalpa, every day of Brahma. He appears, with him appears all his paraphernalia, and so forth, but otherwise it's not visible to the worldly eyes. Next, the special powers of Braja will be described at appropriate places in this work as the essence of all things. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, Kṛṣṇa, the abode of great mercy, after returning from Varuna's palace, shows the cowherds his own planet. We discussed this in detail already, the pastime. There's a pastime where on the morning after Ekadasi, on the Dwadasi morning, Nanda Maharaj is preparing to break the Ekadasi fast. Before doing that, he takes his morning bath in the river Jamuna, and there's some technical detail which we won't go into, but one of Varuna's agents thought he broke the rule, and so he kidnapped Nanda Maharaj and took him to Varuna's abode. And the cowherd men, when Nanda didn't come back out of the river Jamuna, they cried loudly. Kṛṣṇa heard the cries. Kṛṣṇa came. They told what happened. Kṛṣṇa plunged into the Jamuna. He went to the abode of Varuna. Varuna stood, worshipped him in front of Nanda Maharaj. "Here's your father, please take him." And they went back. And so the cowherd men heard from Nanda what happened. And along with the opulence of Varuna's heavenly kingdom, they also heard that Varuna, the demigod, exalted demigod, was worshipping Kṛṣṇa, Nanda's son. So they were going, whoa, who is he? Maybe he's the personality of Godhead, and if he is, maybe he'll show us his abode. Because we're sojourners in cycle of birth and death, sometimes up and down. Maybe he'll take us to his abode. Maybe he'll show us his abode. So Kṛṣṇa knew their desire, because he's in their hearts, and he showed them his abode. He took them to a place, the same place where Kṛṣṇa took his bath and saw the spiritual world, and he showed them the spiritual world. And then he covered them with Yogamaya so they forgot everything. So that's being referred to here. Madhukanta is saying, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, Kṛṣṇa, the abode of great mercy, after returning from Varuna's palace, showed the cowherds his own planet. He submerged them in the blissful Brahma Hrada, the lake, where he showed Akrura his powers as Lord of Vaikuntha, and then pulled them out of that lake. To astonish his people, he showed them his form, the protector of all people, being praised by the Vedas, and then showed them his normal form with the dress of a human being in Vrindavan. The wise, partaking of Vraja, realize its pastimes directly in their hearts. To show its glories, Harivangsha describes how Indra realized the pervading power of the body of Kṛṣṇa in the chapter concerning the bathing of Govinda after the Govardhan Lila. He performed Abhishek, Surabhi performed Abhishek, and his elephant Airavata performed Abhishek, forming the Govinda Kund by Govardhan Hill. In their various descriptions, some people say that all the objects situated in Vrindavan are actually situated above the highest sky, though they are surrounded by matter. Paragraph. Thus, taking up a form according to the particular pastime, the lands of Vraja possess an earthly or prakat and a non-earthly feature, aprakat. Those terms, manifest, unmanifest, seemingly of this world and not at all of this world and not visible to mortal eyes. The great devotees describe this place as the greatest, according to the scriptures like Brahma Samhita, since the place is none different from Ananta and is the direct form of Brahman. The particular powers of the aprakat form of Vrindavan, the unmanifest to human eyes, the particular powers which of this aprakat form, which is described in many scriptures as having both prakat and aprakat forms with innumerable appearances, will now be described. Goloka is the chief place among all the forms. Verses from Brahma Samhita will be quoted to support my views. Madhukanta said, to understand the subject, the statements will not be placed in the order found in the scriptures. So here's the first line from Brahma Samhita. Bhaje Shweta Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golokamityam Vidantaste Shantakshati Viradachara Paye. I worship Goloka, which only a few rare devotees wandering on this earth have realized. Then it actually starts with this one. Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpatarvo Drama Bunis Chintamani Ganamai Tayamamritam Gataganam Natyam ganamam api vangshi priya sakhi chidanandam jyoti param api tad asvadyam api cha. Translation. I worship this Goloka, where there are unlimited gopis and their beloved Kṛṣṇa, the supreme form of God, where the trees and land fulfill all desires, where the water is as sweet as nectar, where the speaking is singing and the walking is dancing, where the flute is the best friend by announcing the joyful presence of Kṛṣṇa everywhere, where the sun and moon shine with knowledge and bliss eternally in perfect form, revealing all things, where all relishable things are also knowledge and bliss. Then all of this is from text 56. Sa yatrakshirad shavati surabhischa sumahan nimeshadhyakyo vavrajati nahi yatrapi samaya. In that place extensive oceans of milk flow from the cows, and not even a moment of time passes. So after the first verse of Brahma Samhita, there is this description. This is verse number 2. Sahasra patram kamalam gokulakyam mahatpadam tatkanikaram tad dhamma tad anantang shma sambhavam. The abode of Kṛṣṇa, called Gokula, is the supreme abode. It is the center, or pericarp, of a lotus with 1,000 petals, and it is sustained by a portion of the spiritual energy of Baladev called Ananta. So we had this discussion among some college kids, and pericarp is used interchangeably with stamen. Somebody said, it's stamen. But the common word that's used for that protruding part of a lotus that sticks up and is flat at the top, that's pericarp. And then there's petals surrounding. Then that's text 2 continues. Around the pericarp is a wall with spires like stamens. So there's the pericarp and there's the filaments that stick up. In the place are also various divisions and bowers for the gopis, which are the petals. He's describing Vrindavan and what it looks like when you get there. This Gokula is surrounded by an astonishing square area called Svetadweep or Goloka. This is divided into 4 parts, which are the abodes of the 4 Vishnu forms, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Goloka is endowed with 4 goals of human endeavors. So it's there. That's there in the spiritual world. Its counterpart is here, but it's because it's in the spiritual world. With the methods for attaining them, it is guarded by obstructions in the form of 10 spears in the 10 directions, including up and down. So there's the 4 directions. We went over this. The cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. Ordinal directions means northeast, southeast, etc. And then up and down makes 10. So Goloka is guarded by spears, tridents, in those 10 directions. It is endowed with 8 treasures and 8 siddhis. It is surrounded by 10 protectors of the directions in the form of their mantras, as well as the 4 Vedas. It is resplendent with astonishing Shaktis. Now, I gave a seminar on Brahma Samhita, and If I can just get my time organized, those lectures have been transcribed, and I'm supposed to go through and edit them, and then we can circulate the text. But all of this is like really dense and it's unpacked. I have a plan, it hasn't manifested yet. Let's see. There is also this description. Chintamani prakara sadmasu kalpa briksha lakshavratesu surabhila bipalayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. From Brahma Samhita. I worship the Supreme Lord Govinda, who affectionately tends the cows in stables whose walls are made of chintamani, surrounded by desire trees. He is eagerly served by countless gopis. Then in Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it is said, quote, in Braja, Govardhan mountain is made of jewels, and the Jamuna, best of rivers, has both banks covered with gems. Just as various forms are drawn on slate, so various objects are depicted in this poetic work with scriptural reference. The planet being described is called Goloka because it is the abode of cows and cowherds. It is called Shweta Dweep because it manifests a pure form which cannot be equaled by anything else. Its supreme position is accepted by persons with knowledge that supreme Goloka is the supreme Shweta Dweep. What has been said is true. In Braja there are many gopis. This is indicated by the plural form Shriya in that Brahma Samhita verse. Braja is not like Vaikuntha, where there is only one Lakshmi on each planet. Shriyaha is the plural form, means gopis. Using the great mantra for attracting Kṛṣṇa, the essence of the meaning of the great statements of the Vedas mentioned in Gautamiya Tantra, the sages teach chanting the name of Kṛṣṇa, who is dear to the cowherd women. We should not depend only on the conventional meaning of Shri in explaining that it means gopi, but depend on the conventions of meditation as well. Shukadev speaks of the normal Lakshmi in the verse beginning Nayam Shriyonga. That's Bhagavatam 10:47-60. That's chapter 47 is Uddhava's visit to Vrindavan. Krishna's in Mathura. He killed Kamsa and everything. And he's now situated in Mathura. And he knows that the residents of Vrindavan are feeling great separation from him. And he's concerned. If I go to Vrindavan, then the remaining demons are going to go harass the Brijbasis. So I can't go. They're missing me, I'm missing them, but I can't go. What should I do? What should I do? I mean, he's omniscient, but that was a pastime. And then Uddhava comes, so he sends Uddhava with a letter. So Uddhava goes, and this is that chapter where Uddhava goes. And Shukadeva Goswami is narrating that the normal conception of Shri is this Nayam Shriyonga. However, Brahma in Brahma Samhita is saying Lakshmi Sahasra indicates special Lakshmi. Like the word Kuru also indicates the Pandavas, a portion of the Kurus. Sometimes the word Shri indicates Lakshmi, and sometimes the gopis. Got it? Radha is the supreme among the gopis. This is proved in the Matsya Purana as well as the Padmaskanda and Adivaraha Puranas. How can it be not true, since it is written in the Gautamiya Tantra, which mentions the name of Govinda and Vrindavan? The main Lakshmi remains amidst all the women situated in all directions. If Radha is the chief among the gopis, what other woman can compare to her? There is one lover of all the women described. His place is called Gokula, and his name is Govinda. May the Supreme Person among all great men, who are called enjoyers of women, enjoy these women one by one. Kṛṣṇa. Krishna's role as an upapati, or consort of women married to other men, by the power of Maya, when he comes as avatar, is destroyed at the end, since it is unreal. This is proved by the words Parama Purusha and Shri. I will elaborate on this with specific proofs later in this work. That is to say, Krishna is not enjoying with another man's wife. Rather, all of these expansions of the gopis are his potency. It's not the same when a man marries a woman, or boy and girl or something. There's another entity, and there's religious marriage between the two, and it's sanctified by scripture and so forth. And violation of that is adharma. But in Krishna's case, the goddesses of fortune, Lakshmi, and her expansions as the gopis, or Radha and her expansions as gopis, it's his own internal potency. It's not something other. The same rule doesn't apply because it's his own potency. Then we can't say that about husbands and wives. So, Balaram may also be inferred to be similar. So he says he's going to explain it more elaborately later. Balaram may also be inferred to be similar. There are unlimited trees in Braja. The desire trees are respected, not because of giving ordinary wealth, but because of giving whatever is desired. Among the trees, the desire trees are special because of outstanding qualities. It's speaking of that verse 56 from Brahma Samhita, that all the trees are desire trees. So what does that mean? It's being explained. Moreover, the whole land of Braja, composed of elements for seeing and hearing, and with spotless powers similar to a mirror, act like Chintamani, fulfilling all desires of the gopis. The land of Braja has inconceivable glories, which are more pleasing than anything else, and which is compared to great Chintamani gems, extending to the houses and other objects. What more can be said? All the many plants there reveal the beauty of the land by their presence. In Braja, the various mountains, animals, and birds create astonishment simply by hearing about and seeing their species and forms. This Chintamani, the Prabhupada explains it like this. Here, houses are made of whatever, wood and nails and metal, sheetrock and studs and stone and, building materials. In the spiritual world, everything there is made of Chintamani, and everything there is conscious. The description is given when Krishna goes to the forest. the gopis use large Chintamani gems to hold the door open, so they can see out their door when Krishna is returning from the forest. It's a valuable item, but for them it's their life in Vrindavan. So they're not interested in the monetary value or the worldly worth of where they are. The buildings, the land, the roads, the paths, everything is made of the same wish-fulfilling gems, Chintamani gems. But it's not a problem. So sometimes people ask this question, if that's the case, why do they live in such simple abodes? They could be in palaces. But they're not interested. They're only interested in that which is pleasing to Kṛṣṇa. So the trees supply whatever, the desire trees supply whatever is useful for Krishna's service, and they're contented with that. Everything it's practically like whatever there is in Vrindavan can fulfill the desires of anything. Everything can fulfill the desires of anything. But there's only one desire. And that's the service of Krishna. And because of that, someone was asking the other day, why does Krishna and the other avatars appear in India? Because the people of those places, when the Lord appears, they have that unequaled love for him. And he naturally goes to where there's unequaled love for him. Natural. And when representatives of the Lord appeared in other places, they weren't received so well. The persons who Muhammad and Christ dealt with were a little rough, and they weren't treated so respectfully, to say the least. So besides the eternal abode of Vrindavan and the eternal abode of Ayodhya and so forth, those places are eternally existing. When this world is destroyed, that world is not destroyed, that the spiritual world remains. It's a little, I don't find it hard to understand, but some people have some difficulty understanding that. Do you know the story of Dhruva?
Yes.
Yeah. So when Dhruva received this benediction from Lord Vishnu, first he became the king, the successor to his father's kingdom, and then he ruled there for some long period of time. And after that, what happened? Where did he go?
He went back to his palace.
When he ruled for something like 60,000 years, and then at the end of his life, where did he go? Dhruvaloka, right?
Yeah.
Dhruvaloka. So when Vishnu gave him residence in Dhruvaloka, he let him know that place will not be destroyed when the universe is destroyed. So it's a spiritual planet within the material realm. So when the material realm is withdrawn, that place remains because it's a spiritual planet. Dhruvaloka or Svetadweep. So similarly, Krishnaloka is like that. So when we pay a visit to Vrindavan, we go by plane and then we may go by train or taxi or something to get to Vrindavan. And then there's a tract of land in Vrindavan. That tract of land in Vrindavan is destroyed, created and destroyed, but there's an eternal abode that's not created or destroyed. Something like when you put oil in water, what happens is the oil and water don't mix. The oil makes a real thin film and spreads over the surface of the water. So when you look at the water, you don't see the water, you see the oil on the surface of the water. But just beneath the oil, there's the water. So similarly, the eternal abode of Kṛṣṇa is eternally existing like the water, and the oil on top is like the world that we see. That's destroyed. And created and destroyed. I mean, when we go to Vrindavan today, it doesn't look like it went, was when Kṛṣṇa was present. It doesn't look like Vrindavan when I first visited in the 1960s, 1970s. Very different. Very, very different. So externally very different. But the eternal abode of Kṛṣṇa is unchanged. And so, temperamental lamp. So we're getting a picture. This is the introductory section to this very large book, Gopal Champu, where Jiva Goswami is giving us a guided tour through Madhukanta as the speaker, the picture of this abode, this place where Kṛṣṇa performs his pastimes. And when Kṛṣṇa performs his pastimes, the unmanifest becomes manifest so that even worldly people can see. And then after Kṛṣṇa's pastimes are concluded, that is withdrawn and worldly people can't see anymore. But eternally those pastimes are going on. Kṛṣṇa is eternally existing there. His associates are there. His paraphernalia is there. Everything for his pastimes are there in an unmanifest state, in a spiritual, unmanifest state. So we're getting a picture of what the manifest state looks like and how it becomes manifest simply by Kṛṣṇa's will, because he's very kind. He comes to perform pastimes to attract our hearts and our minds to his abode, to his eternal abode in the spiritual world, Kṛṣṇa Loka. In Canto 1, Chapter 1, there's 6 questions asked by the sages in relation to the absolute truth. And one of those questions is, when the Lord makes appearance in this world, what is his purpose? So there's 2 purposes given. One is those who are in the quality of goodness, to take them back to his abode. The other is there's a whole bunch of other people that aren't in the quality of goodness, and to attract those persons to aspire to go to the spiritual world. So that's Kṛṣṇa's making those 2 purposes fulfilled. He has his eternal associates. He went to Vrindavan to attract the hearts and the minds of his eternal associates who are manifesting themselves for his pastimes, and then those that aren't of that quality to bring their attention again to what we've forgotten, like us. Give us our subject matter for hearing and chanting and remembering, because those topics are not different than Kṛṣṇa. And it's quite fascinating. So let's see if there's some discussion. The way that we've been doing this is those that are present, if you ask some questions, that's good, because then it gives time for the people that are remote to send in their text messages, their remote questions. Anyone? You have something? Not yet.
I'm thinking.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Maharaj, I have 2 questions. One is, how do we understand that the slightest touch of Vrindavan purifies? There is a statement, even the slightest touch of Vrindavan purifies. So I have been to Vrindavan. So and there are a lot of people that they stay in Vrindavan. They are residents of Vrindavan. So, how can we understand this statement? How it purifies?
Well, I can say intellectually and subjectively. Intellectually, the particle of dust of Vrindavan is not different than Vrindavan. Just like each name of Kṛṣṇa, in each name of Kṛṣṇa, all of Krishna's unlimited potencies is fully invested in each one of Krishna's name. Very compact, powerful, surcharged sound. And each particle of dust of Vrindavan is none different than Vrindavan, similarly. Then, so that's just the way it is. That the potency is there, purifying potency is there. And subjectively, I have experience of going to Vrindavan for yatras, and when we go in our bare feet, and we're getting dust of Vrindavan on our bare feet. And there's something transformational about that experience, a fully spiritualizing experience. It's not just like walking around, in the suburbs out here in your bare feet. It's not the same. One feels, subjectively, one feels the spiritual potency. Your whole being becomes spiritualized.
So, can I also say that each step I take in Vrindavan, lot of sins are purified too? Are gone too.
Yes.
Thereby, I feel the purification.
Yes, it's stated like that, and it's experienced like that.
Then another question is, there was a statement mentioned that Srimati Radharani is the supermost, and it is proved in Matsya Purana. There was a statement that mentioned in Gopal Champu, I think. Where can we get that reference? Is Matsya Purana anywhere available?
I don't know. Maybe some scholars have. I don't know. You can do, if you want, you can do some research. I'm not gonna. I've been researching so many things. I'm researched out for a while.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. He's got his question formulated.
So Maharaj, you mentioned that a person who dies in Vrindavan goes to Kṛṣṇa, and then the other place which I heard was Kashi, that they say that when you die in Kashi, then you go to the Godhead, back to Godhead. Are there other places also which is mentioned in scriptures, Maharaj?
Yeah, where one goes when dies in Kashi, I'd like to see the reference it says, because back to Godhead may mean different things for different people. On the car ride over, we were discussing, Madhava was asking, what did the Prabhupada use, and what was the meaning behind the word Godhead? So we discussed that a little bit. So what's the abode of liberation is maybe what the reference says, and different people have a different idea of what the abode of liberation is, or what liberation is. So for Vaishnavas, the picture of Godhead, or attaining the abode of the Supreme Lord, means Vaikuntha or Krishna Loka. Vaikuntha, Ayodhya, Krishna Loka. The abode of the Supreme Lord, Narayana, or his Lord Ram, etc. Krishna. So are there, back to your question, are there other places? Sure. Each of those abodes, like Purushottam Chatra in Puri is one such place. Dwarka is one such place. Mathura is one such place. Ayodhya is one such place. The place where the Lord appears and performs his pastimes, an eternal abode of the Lord in this earthly realm. That's why I was spending some time with him just describing where Dhruva went. He went to Sweta Dweep. He called Dhruvaloka. And that's a spiritual place. But there's this counterpart in this material realm of the eternal abodes of the Lord. So those are such places have that result. And same thing as, with every step. I mean, that was one of the messages we heard when we went to Dwarka. I remember very clearly, with every step, or, purifying ourselves. Yeah.
So Guru Maharaj, again, glorifying with Vrindavana pastime. Recently, yesterday's lecture, today's lecture. So after even Prabhuji's those questions, where I see myself, I have not been to Vrindavan yet.
That's okay.
I'm longing for it. It's not yet, So for me, what I'm thinking is it something that, for purification, any of the glories or, revising myself with the knowledge will help me to, get my sins out, or just
Yes.
visiting helps, or, with some knowledge, it helps more.
All of the above. Just hearing about is visiting. We can visit through sound. And if you have heard the glories of and then go, all the more. But supposing you hadn't, just like the first time I visited Vrindavan, I didn't know so much. Mm-hmm. But it was, the purification is absolute in any case.
Right. So just, a childhood memory that I have, going to Pandharpur. Recently, I know, Guru Maharaj, you had been to that place. I'm from that, close by neighboring town where I lived. And we used to go there and, do our services. Going to that native place and, meeting the Lord.
You feel something.
Yeah, we feel it. And, now having this, reading Bhagavad Gita and having the association, doing services, though we are remote, I'm still, connected to that place more.
Good.
And, so I compare to my childhood when I see, I was connected and I used to get mercy for sure. But now knowing some of the reading through and, getting learned more, will that help me more when I visit the place again?
Yes, the same question, but the answer, same answer, yes. Mm-hmm. Shravanam Kirtanam is our primary Bhagavad Dharma process. And as that purification rises, and the contamination subsides and purification rises, when you go back, the connection is even stronger. Now, the emotion that you may feel may not be what you expect it to be. It may be greater than you expect it to be, just or totally different than what you expect it to be. But there certainly is going to be a stronger connection.
It will be stronger than before.
Yeah. How that will feel, you can't predict.
That's true. That's true, yeah.
I mean, it's like, for example, when it's common experience for devotees who go to Vrindavan and stay for some time, not just go and 2 or 3 days and say we visited Vrindavan. We got in a taxi and we drove around Govardhan. It was really nice. But, you stay for some time. It's purifying in a way that mountains of contamination are taken away, and sometimes it's really uncomfortable. It's like, but it's very clear, it's purification. So it may not be the anticipation of, I felt, something.
Sure.
The palpitation, and I was tears, and all those nice, feelings. May not be like that, but it'll certainly be a connection.
So will that be the same feeling that I may have in Vrindavan?
It's filled with mystery,
It-
but for sure that the sense of connection is there. And you'll see, visiting Vrindavan, you won't see the transcendental Vrindavan, you'll see the covering. You'll see the oil. And the oil part is not so pretty. Because materialistic people take advantage of the pilgrimage place for their purposes, and they create things that's not, sublime. But that's not the holy Dham. It's just. But at the same time, they're not ordinary people. They're getting braj every day, and they're getting mercy in a way that we can't understand so easily. I don't know if they understand so well either, but it anyway. Anything from you? No? Okay. Yes.
So, Guru Maharaj, is it okay to have a desire that at some point in my life I go to Vrindavan and do my devotional service? Is that desire okay?
That's okay. Yeah. Feeling the connection can manifest that way, some other way, and some other way, and so many other ways. But having that desire, however it manifests, whatever way it manifests, is recommended. There are 5 most potent activities in bhakti, and residing in the holy dham is one of them. So, and if one cannot reside in the holy dham, one meditates on the holy dham, like she's describing about meditating on going up near Pandharpur, and the experience of going to the place. And I was with the home of one other family that they're also from the Pandharpur area. Who was that? Was it here or was it in Naperville? Not here. Somebody said that I shared with them, I shared with you, when we went to Pandharpur, there were some number of devotees from China with us, and Western people, non-Indian people, are not allowed even to enter some temples. But with Vittal, they not only they can enter the temple, but place their head on his feet, and they were like, it wasn't just. I mean, it wasn't just an honor. There was a feeling. He's giving mercy. So somebody we shared that immediately said his toes are not completely gone, and it even said fingers gone, just flat. That he's just giving his mercy for all these so many centuries. Very special place. Very special place. Okay, so you have something?
So Maharaj, you mentioned that if you go to Vrindavan and if you die there, then it's good. It's you
go back to
go
Godhead.
back to Godhead. But now we have left the Punya Bhumi of India too, and we are here. So how do we look at it? Does it
How do we do what?
How do we look at it? Is there a negative?
About living where we're living instead of living there?
Yeah, instead of living there, or even if we are not in Vrindavana when we die, which we cannot control, then what does it mean to us?
Well, what's important, we had this lively discussion the other day too. What's important is your consciousness, or what's important is where your attachments are. And so one can try to live in Vrindavan, they won't be able to live in Vrindavan if their attachments are elsewhere. And if you can be not in Vrindavan, but your attachment is with Kṛṣṇa, you're in Vrindavan. Because you're in Vrindavan consciousness or Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So how do we look at it? We don't know where we're going to be when we leave our body, but we can practice and cultivate attachment to Krishna, and whatever you're attached to, that's where your mind will go, and that's where you will go. That's how we look at it. We perform a prescribed duty, and always think of Krishna. Mama nusmara yujacha. Oh, so prescribed duty for each of us, with different details. Perform prescribed duty, and always think of Krishna. So when you always think of Krishna, you go to Krishna. Whether you're in Vrindavan or Timbuktu. Online? Anything back there?
I had a counter question to what
Okay, so let's hear your...
Guru Maharaj, the question was like, as we say, like as one goes to Vrindavan, he gets purified. So would it be correct to say that the residents of Vrindavan who are like residing there, are they 100% pure?
No. That would be a misconception or mistaken conception to think. No.
So if they are not pure, then they will incur the karma or something, like even though they are in the Vrindavan Dham.
They may make offense, and that offense will block them from going back to Godhead.
Okay. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay?
I have a comment before I go to the online questions. I feel that being here with you, hearing about Vrindavan is more inspiring than me personally going there, because if I go there, I mean, Yatra is different, but if I personally go there, I may not feel the same as I am feeling right now, is what I am understanding. So this is just a comment. It's not. Two questions from Sanchari. Is Sanskrit the language of the spiritual world?
Yes. And the Devas.
Second question. When a pure devotee passes, they apprentice during the Lord's pastime in the material world before going back home. If that devotee for some reason falls down, where do they go?
That's a college question. They don't. Next question.
Okay. She continues, like the personalities who were on the planet during the Lord's pastimes but did not accept his divinity or want
Did
to
not
serve
accept his divinity?
divinity or want to serve him, not the ones who were personally killed by him, but the others.
I don't get it. Do you get it?
So I think it is those who are not devotees, but not the demons, but those who did not accept Krishna.
So what about them?
What will happen to them when they pass away? Where
They'll
will
take
they
another
go?
birth.
That's question from Mahatma Prabhu. Is Dhruva Maharaj living in his planet or he left for the spiritual world?
He's in his planet, Dhruvaloka.
Question from Uttama Bhakta Prabhu. When in 2007, when we were in Vrindavan at Goswami's Samadhi, you mentioned Srila Goswami buried some of the high-level literature after the departure of senior Goswamis.
Yes.
Any indication what it related to?
Esoteric teachings that were not accessible to the rest of us.
A question from Sri Radhika Mataji. During parikramas, you often start with Bhaktivinoda Thakur's quote about how a thin film of oil covers the
Yes.
surface of the water.
Yeah.
No, I think it is just a comment. It was not a question. Sorry. Question from Giri Votikota. What should be the mood of a devotee in visiting today's modern Vrindavan?
Prayerful. That his question is, what should be the mood? Prayerful.
Question from Satish Patnakar. If you feel appropriate, Maharaj, could you please share a personal Vrindavan experience which you felt was very mysterious?
Very what?
Mysterious.
Mysterious. I don't think that's a good question to ask somebody.
Let's continue.
Yeah.
Shashireka Mataji's question. I have also heard that if one is not completely purified, can't go to Vaikuntha, even one has little bit of desire or even little bit of tendency to enjoy, independent of Kṛṣṇa, can't go back to Godhead. May I please know that how just leaving body in Dham, one can go back to Godhead? Even if they go, do they again come back because their heart is not purified? I always get desire to leave my body in Vrindavan. I feel I am looking for shortcut, going back to Godhead without any hard work. Also imagining that I am dying in America gives a lot of anxiety.
That's similar to your question. Well, there's several things. One of them is it's her question the same as your question, or similar to your question. I know of people that went to Vrindavan with that, calculated purpose, the shortcut purpose, and it ended up they didn't die in Vrindavan. Something happened and they didn't leave their body in Vrindavan. So that special dispensation that comes is, for people who Krishna wants to take back to him, and he's not obliged. He's not an order supplier personality. So another dimension is how it happens. This is part of what we discussed. Krishna's intervention in some manner or another, so that a thought of him is on our mind. I mean, there must be some thought if one wants to be in Vrindavan. There's some faith in Krishna. Some faith in the scriptural indication that if you leave your body in Vrindavan, you'll go to the spiritual world. There's some faith, and how that faith gets nurtured or magnified or something at the final moment, who can say? I can't say. So, and the fear of leaving your body outside of Vrindavan in America. Well, it's love of God isn't awakened by fear. Love of God is awakened by loving service. So do loving service, and fear arises from attachment to the bodily conception. And when that bodily conception is there, then knowing who we are and knowing who God is become obscured. And that's where the fear arises from. So work on your Krishna consciousness to rise above that, wherever I am, let me be conscious of Krishna. Whether you're in Vrindavan or in America or on the moon, wherever you are, be conscious of Krishna. Work on that. Now, these potencies, I'm going to send you a little. Bhadrinarayan Swami tells a story about observing Ekadasi that Prabhupada told. Did I send that to you yet? I'll send it to you, you can send it to others. But in short, it's a story of Prabhupada telling a story of a Muslim man who was his friend, and he invited him to come to his home for an evening meal, and he realized last minute it was Ekadasi and apologized to the Muslim man about, it's Ekadasi. And the Muslim man said, oh, very good, I'm relieved, I observe Ekadasi too. And Prabhupada was asking him, well, you're a Muslim man, why are you observing Ekadasi? And he told the story about, somebody accidentally observing Ekadasi and being protected. It's an interesting story. But so there's potencies in Ekadasi, there's potencies in Vrindavan, there's potencies in the holy name, there's potencies in the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's potencies in the dust of Vrindavan. That's not exaggeration. No, our experience and realization of those things may be whatever it may be, but the statements are not exaggerations, and how it works is the potency of Krishna. When in each and every one of Krishna's names, all of his transcendental potencies are invested in. And how many potencies is that? In each and every name, in each and every particle of dust, and so forth. So it's not exaggeration. The potency is there. How we experience that potency has, there's lots of factors. Our openness, our receptivity, and so forth. Don't be so calculating. That just with faith, move towards Krishna in whatever way that's available for you according to your particular circumstance in the moment. Krishna will take you to him when you live your life that way.
Question from Radha Kund Mataji.
Yeah.
Descriptions of the spiritual world are given in our scriptures. Are there any descriptions available in the scriptures regarding the form of a living entity in the spiritual world?
Yes. It's same as the description of the spiritual world. The forms of living entities are also there. Okay?
Question from Lingaraju Prabhu. How do we understand materialistic people taking advantage of or exploiting spiritual place like Vrindavana and other holy places? Is it really possible to do that?
It's not only really possible. It goes on. They're criminals in the holy dham. Not just people that take advantage. So yes, it's possible. How does it go on? Krishna doesn't interfere with, but anyway, we have to be very careful.
Another question from Lingaraj Prabhu. When we visit holy places, how should we be sure we are not having similar tendencies of exploitation?
How can you be sure? Well, you can only be sure if you're pure, and if you're not pure, you can be sure you have some of those tendencies. Next.
this is from Clara Reed. Chaitanya Charitamrita 22, 33. I don't know whether it is Madhya Lila, Antya Lila. One is immediately freed from the clutches of Maya if he once seriously and sincerely says to Lord, I am yours. Is the surrender here permanent? Sometimes the consciousness become covered again.
Not only sometimes. The potency is there, and one may access the potency and turn away from the potency. One can become again covered, but the potency is there. The commitment from Kṛṣṇa isn't withdrawn when our attention gets distracted.
That's all online.
Okay.
I have one question. I'm still articulating it in my brain. So the definition of mercy is something that is given to me for which I am not qualified. So sometimes I have a feeling that, oh, the devotional practices and purification, I have to get purified to, go back to Kṛṣṇa. Feels like, I have to come to a level of qualification. But then the question also comes like, then if I try, but then where is the question of mercy? So that's the question.
Well, it's a false dilemma. The servitor and the served, and the served by nature is merciful, and the servitor is by nature dependent upon that mercy. Now, if you're dependent upon mercy, it doesn't mean you don't serve. One doesn't cancel out the other. Let's go to the spiritual plane. And so when in the spiritual plane, one is humble and one is also very enthusiastic. Greedy beyond enthusiastic. Laulyam. But in the spiritual kind. So, but what's my qualification? So it's not it's not a prerequisite qualification. That's not where mercy. The premise of your question is misleading. That's confusing you. Okay.
Maharaj, this is from the context of as we know, Vrindavan has a potency, because there was pastimes of Lord Kṛṣṇa there. So here in America, we have the new Vrindavan in West Virginia. Does it have the equivalent potency, if we have to say?
Any place where it's not just New Vrindavan, including New Vrindavan and including Kishore Kishori and including any place where Krishna is being worshipped.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Any place where one lives one's life. I mean, I shared this the other day, and I don't mind sharing it again. In New York, 3 times I heard Prabhupada say, this temple is not in New York. This is Vaikuntha. Now, not all of us were experiencing Vaikuntha. We're experiencing New York. You follow? So what's the basis? Because Krishna's at the center, and he's being served, and so forth.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So that's Vaikuntha by consciousness and by conduct also. There's Radha Govinda, and the Radha Govinda is being served 7 times a day, and this and that, and kirtan and festivals and and we're still not fully purified, but we're in Vaikuntha. So one can also go to Vrindavan and be in Maya. But the purification is absolute nonetheless. One gets mercy even though one isn't qualified. Okay? We're good?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Yeah.
So I have like 4 questions,
Four?
not related to this topic, not with Vrindavana.
Okay.
So there are a couple of questions that I have from Mahabharata.
Okay.
So the question I have is, I always, try to relate their qualities, and then, those qualities, if I can get that applicable to my own life. So the way I understand Arjuna is, he wanted to follow Dharma. He wanted to serve Lord. So he wanted to be with good qualities.
Right.
On the other side, Duryodhana wanted to be with adharma. He never wanted to serve Krishna. He never took any help from Krishna. So what happened to him was all negative, and he got killed, and he never got any success in his life. So with Arjuna, we knew that he was following him, and all the instructions were followed, and he got this, so-called success, but he was always serving Lord. But, so in today's world, right, if I want to follow dharma, yes, this is what I have to do. I never want to, follow adharma. What will happen to Duryodhana will happen to me. So, there are 2 qualities I see which are totally opposite. But the qualities of Krupacharya, qualities of Dronacharya, Bhishma, Dev, how do I relate those qualities, and how I see, that in Kali Yuga? They wanted to follow dharma. They were the devotees. They know what is right. Then too they had to follow the opposite party. So some prarabdha, something would be with their life. It's should be fine. But maybe it's my short. I don't know how to really narrate it. But this is something that I see they are in between. They wanted to serve Lord. They know Krishna is Lord, and they would have served better, but they could not.
Well, 2 things. In Bhagavad Gita, the word avaricious is used. You familiar? That section? Although they're avaricious, Arjuna says, I don't want to be... So the avaricious is their rationale of why they took the side of Duryodhana. That is, it's a dharmic principle in one sense. That is, they were being maintained, and they're obliged, because of being maintained, to be on the side of those who are maintaining them. That's a sub-dharma, and the higher dharma is Krishna dharma. Well, they took that position wrongly. Now, how is it possible for Bhishma, who's one of the Mahajans, to take a position wrongly? And because it was, then it gets go down. He, Bhishma Dev, had a relationship with Krishna of dasya ras. His mood toward Krishna was servant. And there was a secondary rasa of chivalry, which Krishna should enjoy having a tussle. So he took the opposite side of the Pandavas, who he loved, so he could be on the opposite side and have combat with Krishna, firing arrows at Krishna and hitting Krishna's chest, and blood coming because he doesn't have veins, but blood, that demonstration. And Krishna loved it because the arrows are coming from Bhishma. So Bhishma had to be on the other side for that chivalry exchange. It's deep, and it doesn't move in a straight line. It's said that love moves like a snake, very crooked movement. So it was an act of love which doesn't look like an act of love at all, because Duryodhana was such a bad person. How can you fight on the side of Duryodhana no matter what? Then you can't, because he's such a bad person. But he took a dharmic stance. I'm being maintained. So that the language in Bhagavad Gita is he's avaricious. He's getting money. He's fighting because he's getting money. But I still shouldn't. So that was Arjun's position. But he wasn't greedy. He was thinking of a dharmic principle that wasn't the higher dharmic principle. That he knows the higher. In Dharma, how do you balance between something that's Dharma over here, and so you should do this, and something that's Dharma over there, and you shouldn't do this? And how do you decide? We have to be Mahajan to know how to decide. And he's a Mahajan. But he made the wrong decision. How's that possible? Super soul in his heart, so that the rest of Krishna's intentions would be fulfilled. And not just the chivalry, but the passing of grandfather Bhishma and the whole the drama. That Krishna wanted to show the greatness of grandfather Bhishma. He wanted to show other things too.
He was a great devotee.
Prabhupada writes in first canto, Krishna wanted to show, if you don't protect women, doesn't matter who you are, you'll be destroyed. And grandfather Bhishma didn't protect Draupadi when he could have, should have. He's a Mahajan. And he said nothing. She asked him directly, and he said nothing. How's that possible? Krishna wanted to show.
So then with today's world, for me, if I want to see their position, is it something that there are like a hierarchy of dharmas that they choose the lower?
It's mysterious for you to look at grandfather Bhishma. You look at Apichet Sudaracharo Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhak. That's how you look at grandfather Bhishma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Durachar, Sudurachar.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sadhu. But it was Durachar. Sudurachar. Draupadi's being dealt with and he doesn't do anything. That's not. It's not okay.
Yeah.
It's like the people that put that guy that put his knee on Floyd's neck, and that the other cops standing around watching it. They didn't do the deed, but they're implicated.
Yeah. Got it.
And grandfather Bhishma was implicated.
Sure. Yeah. And then one more on the similar in Mahabharata story. So my son, they are doing this Mahabharata reading with Kishori. And when the book came, in 2 days he finished the book. Wow. And we were discussing on how did you like it, and we were at the last chapter where we were discussing on it. Do you want to narrate the question?
So when Yudhishthir, not died, but went on Indra's chariot, he went to heaven, then asked where his brothers were, and went down to hell with all his brothers and Draupadi. And while Duryodhana was up in heaven, why are they in hell and Duryodhana in heaven?
Well, there's a Vaishnava explanation that goes like this. The demigods have powers to make illusory things appear. Demons have powers to make illusory things appear. So that Indra made this illusion as if they went to hell, but they didn't. They were in heaven, and it was an illusion. Because they're they're not just like good souls, they're eternal associates of Krishna. The Bhagavatam says when they left their bodies, when they left this earth, they went to the spiritual world in their self-same bodies. There's no mention of going to heaven. There's no mention of seeing hell. In their self-same bodies, that means they're like Dhruva in his self-same body. His body became fully spiritual and he went to Dhruvaloka. So they, same thing. They're in their spiritualized bodies, they went back to Godhead. That's the Bhagavatam. Now Mahabharata is emphasizing dharma and adharma, good and bad, right and wrong. So because of they had made some mistakes, they had this experience in heaven where this apparition was as if they were in hell, and then it was gone. It was just an illusory display of of Indra, of the demigods, to address the fact they had done some wrongs and that got cleansed. Okay.
So Guru Maharaj, on another note, when I was kind of comparing, may not be a good choice, but I was seeing Narad Muni and his devotional service, and then I was seeing Dhruva Maharaj and his devotional service, and now I see Kali Yuga where we have propagated Sankirtana, and Bhakti Yoga is the best yoga to do your devotional services. So how does it differ from yoga? Or because Dhruva Maharaj, if I see that he has done the tapashcharya and where Vishnu got pleased, so his way of doing the service was different than Narad Muni. It was different, and then now what we have to do is
according to what Scripture says, the benefits to be derived by those kinds of tapasas and meditations is surpassed by the benefit of the Sankirtan. It's included plus. Mm-hmm. Now, the capacity for a living entity in such a yuga to do what Dhruva did would not be possible for a person in Kali Yuga. Not possible. Not possible. Yeah. Just not possible. But the benefit to be derived by the Sankirtan surpasses that. It's not the same tapasya.
So they had longer durations versus
and so many other qualities and qualifications. Mm-hmm. The situation is totally different. It's totally different.
So on the other way, is it something for them the duration was different than compared to this yoga? So is it effective the way we are saying we are having a shorter life versus they had?
It's not just shorter life, everything is diminished. Qualities are diminished, compassion is diminished, spiritual inclination, everything is diminished. Wow. Kali Yuga, everything is down. Manda samanta mateo manda, bad, diminished. It's Kali Yuga. It's not just, so many things.
Yeah.
And it's happening, in a present time frame. Here's two things just to amplify. When Jiva Goswami was writing, he was writing to an audience that didn't have computers, but they had the kind of memory, even during his time, 500 years ago, 450 years ago, they had full access to all the Vedas. Now I have a computer. In my computer I have, many books, and I can research things and look things up, but I forget them after I read them. It doesn't stick. But they had, and not only the information, but the subtleties and the details, and that was just 500 years ago. So what to speak of during Dhruva's time, previous yuga. Or then second is today. Young people today are so involved with technology and video games, their minds have become mush. The finer sentiments and the finer memory and the qualities just get squashed by, the exposures to modern society. But there's a devotee, a godbrother, that's teaching in a Gurukula in South India, and he was saying the teacher has somebody put something in their hand, and the kids can say what's in their hand because they've lived a different kind of a life than what modern people are exposed to. As intelligent as modern people may be, these are little kids. And they can recite things backwards, forwards, and upside down. The quality has changed so much. It can be restored, but it takes a lot to restore it, and it's not easy to restore it. So it's not just the duration of life, the number of years. My point is, everything has become diminished. But the purpose is, and the purpose of this is, and the purpose, the method is a especially blessed benediction for the sage of Kali, Sankirtan, and those that have faith in it become elevated by it. Even those that don't have faith in it become less, but somewhat elevated by it, because the potency is there. Okay? That you're covered?
Yes.
We're done, yes? Yes. Okay. Srila Prabhupada.